Hi, guys, and welcome to the Raw and Tested podcast with Glenn Ratcliffe, and I'm your host, Ashley. It's really great to have Glenn with us today. He's going to be sharing with us some amazing new insights and about peace and love that honestly we need in the world. And he's also going to be sharing about his acting experience, veganism, and a whole bunch of really amazing things. So I hope you can stick around for the entire show. Glenn, it's really great to have you here with us.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm very proud to be here. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Glenn is an award-winning actor. He's been in multiple films, and one of the most recent was Justin Bieber's Ghost, and he's also been Tom Clancy's Division. And he has a huge message to get out to the world about passion for peace and love. And we're going to learn a little bit about that from one of his most recent one of his films that got everything kind of started in what his drive and mission is. So we're going to show a little clip of that here. It's called Shaking. And the shaking cup. And I'm going to show a couple of pieces of it. And then we're going to talk to Glenn because this is kind of the starting point for your mission.
Could you please sing me a song?
I can. Please forgive me.
It's just such a heart-grabbing, emotional piece. And Glenn, this is one of your first messages that you were sharing with the world. Can you tell us a little bit about what were you sharing with the shaking cup?
Well, shaking cup, I believe, is representative of us all. He's sitting on the piano there. The piano is the heartstrings of your soul, basically. And he's lost contact with that. And the child is a virgin birth. And he can't do it because he's racked with guilt. And he had been responsible in a way for the little girl's death. He wasn't paying attention. He was all egotistical, and she wanted to play with him, and he ignored her, and she went off and got ran over with a car. So he crystallized his guilt, and he went from being a famous opera singer to a homeless man, and that's hell opposed to heaven. You see the barren wasteland, which represents hell and the emptiness, and you see his one slither of hope, that piano, which is, God, please forgive me, please forgive me. And the apparition of his daughter coming is the virgin birth, and he still can't do it because that's the struggle that we all have. Homeostasis, which is a frozen concept of reality where you can't move because you're frozen. And so what happens when you do that? You disconnect from God, because God is the freedom of expression, the freedom of joy, the freedom of love. And just as a side note for that, I'll share this with you. It's a very personal thing. 2 years prior to that, my partner for 15 years committed suicide. She actually hung herself, and I came home and I had to cut her down with a pair of scissors. That devastated me. I was inactive for about a year, and I took a lot of blame. Oh, I should have been better, this, that, the next thing. So it took me almost that time to recover, to do this piece. And the reason I'm sharing this to everyone and all artists, it's okay to be truthful. Don't deny your pain. Don't deny your guilt, because through accepting it and going through it and learning to express it, you release it. And this is one of the things that is self-sabotage. We hang on to the guilt. So playing that part, the gift of that part was I really had tragedy. That's why everything is so real there, because I really, really had that from the suicide. And it took a lot for me to actually say I've got to revisit those feelings, because they were stored, crystallized in my body, and that's toxic. Even though I would say for the first year I was crying almost every day till I ran out of tears, literally. But I saw this. I saw God give me an opportunity because I'd resolved any guilt. And it's very painful for me to do this, but I had to visit it. And by visiting it, I was free from it. So that particular scene has the symbolism of the virgin birth and a man down and out. But I just wanted to share with the audience that it was very true for me. It was my resurrection. So there's complete truth in that that story for me, you know. And I think God, if you listen to his voice, he puts serendipity, opportunities, things that you need to investigate, and they might be painful things, they might be happy things, but you must go into what I call the unknown. The uncertainty of not knowing is part of the resurrection process, because if you're thinking about what you should have done or where you're going or making up stories, you're not in the now. And so if you're not in the now, your energy is just being diluted like a boat full of holes. Oh, got to do this, got to that. So there's none of you here. So that particular scene, I was all there because I had that feeling of complete pain, guilt, suffering, and it hadn't been released. And that actual movie helped to release it. So, you know, all great artists, I feel, painters, dancers, communicators, the more they're in touch with their pain and they have the courage to release it, because emotion is energy in motion. E for energy, motion for movement. So if it's stuck in here, it's going to get toxic. But if I say, here's my pain and suffering, and not as a victim, but as an artist, as you know, you see these people with these women whose children have been killed with an alcoholic. They don't, some of them just crystallize and go to fear. Others say, look, I am going to stand up for drunk drivers and people that hit people, that this is not right. I'm going to fight the drunk drivers. That's an example of turning your pain into a positive. And that's what the shaking cup was for me.
That's amazing. And what a heartbreaking story, Glenn. I just can't even imagine. So I'm really, really just, my heart goes out to you, because that's just that's not a fun thing at all. And it's really hard to go through it. You can see your emotion in the video too, that you've really experienced. You know what it's like to go to the utter end of your soul and just, you know, need to come back. And you've also had a lot of near-death experiences in your life as well. You know, you've had quite an interesting and difficult life in your endeavors and everything coming up to being in an acting field. What are some of those experiences that you've had that have helped to shape who you are today as well?
Well, I would say when I did recapitulation, actually, it started at the beginning when unfortunately, my mum and dad, they had no money, so I was put in an orphanage. I have two sisters I've not seen either. So that at the time feels horrible, but the gift, the caveat, and I always look for the caveat, the positive, and because suffering can beget wisdom. You know, it's when you play the victim, you oh poor me, but you go, wait a minute, I created that, so da 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 da. So what happened was, from the orphanage, you vacate the temple. There is no self because there's no mirroring from your mother. So you're already in the world, but not of it. A strange paradox of enlightenment, but you don't know it at the time. So the matrix, the system, nothing really gets a hold of you because you've disassociated from your family. And the family will usually embroider in you their neurotic patterns, you know, the sins of the father, the continuum of time and space. And in your DNA, you have some of those patterns because that's who you were born from. So the issue for me was I had the patterns, but there was no love. I now realize they tried their best, and you know that's all been fixed. Again, addressing the pain, that kind of shaped my soul to be in liquidity. So I think I had an acting instrument early on, but I didn't know it. I drifted into acting. It wasn't like, oh, I'll be an actor. But I think that soul being in liquidity and having also zero education, I had to really, so I was out of school at 14, I had to really think on my feet, you know. So I had all these jobs that I got fired from, but I could convince them. So I was a sheet metal man, I was a plumber, I was a salesman, worked in a plastic factory, digging ditches, what you name it, I did everything. But that again was shaping my acting because I had to actively listen. What do these people need to know? I have an intention, I have an objective. So even though it wasn't acting training in a class, it was kind of acting training in life. So that kind of shaped who I am, and it's all to do with pain and suffering, but transcending that and using it as a lesson, and then giving encouragement to others. That's where the healing starts. Maybe latent in my subconscious mind, I had a death experience, death wish, because I did have multiple car accidents. I was stabbed in Hollywood by a drug dealer, tried to stab me in the throat. I moved, and then tried to stab me. I think it was in the eye, and I bent over, and he hit my back with a big rusty carving knife. So I've had multiple, multiple rushes with death. And that again is wisdom. You go, well, why didn't I die? You know, these 9 car accidents I had. I died in one, but I even came back from that. And there's a moral to that story. It's that, you know, we're here to serve. You're not done yet. And I think in my soul contract, I said, look, this is the last time I want to be here. Bring all the karma on, bring everything you can. I'm going to stand in the power of God, and I'm going to just not be moved. I'm going to ground myself in the truth and walk forward and face my demons, you know. So that was learned later in life, you know, through recapitulation, through meditation. But at the time, you're falling down these holes, getting up, falling down these holes, getting up. But all this has shaped me to realize that, you know, you're on God's time, or whatever this higher power is. You're on that time. Because if it was my time, I'd have been gone already, you know. So that told me, why am I here? What's going on here? I'm not here to just sit and watch the TV and drink big gulps. I mean, I'm here to, what's going on here? So you have to do introspection. Mm-hmm. And then with the final death experience, when I went actually into the sun and transcended and saw my labeled body, Glenn, and resided in the quantum field of pure energy, pure love and peace, I realized, okay, that's what happens when you die. So why am I in a rush for this? Because there's no worries anymore. So as soon as I had that recollection, boom, I went back. And that's when it started. It started, okay, I got to surrender my ego to this divine power, which I just experienced. And that took a long time, going around the world, Tibet, China, India, speaking to people, meditating, this, that, the next thing, and going to Kaohsiung in Taiwan, meeting Master Ching Hai, who's a reincarnation of Buddha, and receiving initiation in Kuan Yin, which is the mastery of sound and light. Right after that initiation, I channeled down the movie Tested. and tested is, I thought, I've been tested all my life, but to know you've been tested is to know you can be free. That's the purpose of that, that inspiration I come up with for the movie. So I wrote that movie Tested because I believed everyone is tested. I know I've been tested. You got your own tests, whatever, be it a divorce, be it a drinking problem, be it no love, being someone stealing from, we're all being tested because that's the game here, cause and effect. And it's to look for the cause of everything, because an effect, it's already happened. All wisdom lies in the causal plane. So you go, what caused that? Then for your own life, you see, you caused everything, because you are the Son and your awareness is God. The Father within does the works, and the Father is you. It's not Santa Claus upstairs. It's not in the church. It's in your heart as free, unfiltered energy coming out of you to the higher centers and connecting you to everyone. So these lessons that I learned wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had the car accidents, been in an orphanage, done this, done that. So my message to everyone is, don't worry about it. Reframe your reality and say, what did I learn from that? And you'll find you caused that. And you ask why you caused it, and you go, oh, I had an unhealed emotion. I'm still not done with my dad yet. He never loved me and I'm angry at him. But it's locked in what's called the unknown part of your mind. So it controls you, because what it does, it blocks you. If you've got 100% energy, all these little blocks, oh, you've got 98 now, 96, 94, because you're dealing with what's called subscaras, which are energy blocks, which, like a garden hose being kinked, the energy can't flow through you. So you can't be divinely inspired, because you're resisting, because you're not dealing with your pain or your truth. So the death experiences really were, for me, a resurrection, knowing that life begins death and death begins life. And each test, each pain, each event, if you take it correctly, it can elevate you to a greater understanding.
That's amazing and very true. It's looking past what you've experienced and things that you've gone through and seeing, what's behind it. I was talking to somebody the other day about this, actually, where this person lost everything, like she was paralyzed from the waist down, from 24 hours. Within 24 hours, she had this rare disease. And, you go into thinking like what you take for granted on a regular basis, and having to push past the why to becoming more at looking at, the reason behind it. And you can't ask the question why, because it's an emptyless question. You're never going to get the answer for it, but you need to keep pushing forward and keep moving on to the next thing so that you can, grow and learn, because you have the opportunity to change change the world or mindset with wherever you're at. So I appreciate that, Glenn. And this, you go into a lot, this is how you learn about the peace movement, and this is kind of what started that. And then, the phase of enlightenment. And we talked about that a little bit. Tell us a little bit more. What is enlightenment? Because I know some people don't understand what that even means.
Well, to me, enlightenment is, if I break it down, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Or, you need to break it down, because it's not, ultimately, it's just when your knowing supersedes your senses, when you have no identity but I am. Because every form of crystallized identity links to desire and an attachment. And if you're controlled by attachments outside of you, you're controlled by the outside world. You're not enlightened, because you're looking for the outside world to give you happiness. So for me, it's getting to that state of realization and knowing that the universe is a continuum, a never-ending self-expanding entity feeding off itself. Once you understand the mechanism of how the universe is made, everything is made to be unmade, to be remade. So the universe will give you life, take it, resurrect, and it's a cyclical nature to allow you to experience the universe. But unfortunately, you've got to look at what's stopping that. What is stopping that? Not in the Garden of Eden. You know, you can go back to the biblical stories of psychological unfoldment. That's really what those books are about. Man's battle with himself. It's not an externalization of a man on a cross. You're the man on the cross. It's all you. Everything is you. This is your dream. This is your reality that you created. It's not outside of you. I always say genius is inherent and mediocrity is self-bestowed. Looking out, so you got to go in here. You're never learning anything. You're waking up what you already know by your very birthright. The molecule of God and love is in your heart. So that's where you got to go and visit. It's no good going, oh, I'm going to go here, going to go here, going. It's not there. It's in here. So these little principles are part of enlightenment. You know, because it's hard to reframe your entire reality and say, oh, I'm a talking animal in a floating zoo. Most people won't accept that truth. So that's the problem. And it's accentuated by what I call a corrupt system, where there's people that have this wisdom on the darker side, and they will initiate what's called stimuli to the mammalian brain, which is your flight or fight mechanism of survival. So if you're in survival modality, like years ago, the gazelle was chased by the lion, it was running, you know, the caveman mentality. We have that. The frontal executive cortex, the brain, that's not fully developed in most people. That's a kind of centering, governing factor where you actually can make decisions based on wisdom. But if I'm constantly bombarding you, oh, the pandemic, here, take some of these drugs, eat this food that's full of poison. You know, there's shootings. You're in a survival modality, right? So the enlightenment, which is your birthright, is being stripped from you because someone's saying, I'm going to make you think this way. It's mass human brainwashing and genocide is what's going on. And if you look at the planet, you just step back and go, wait a minute. What about this pandemic? Big pharma giving these drugs out like candy, homelessness, the greenhouse effect. You know, there's so many different things that you have to pay attention to. But most people in survival mode turn it off, and so all they're doing is thinking about them, me. How am I going to survive? Me. Meanwhile, you know, 100 million people are being sick, thousands are being killed. And you're going, me. Why? Because the system's put a virtual headset on you that's encompassed a trap in your reality. And you can't get out of a trap if you don't know you're in one. So the purpose of the tested movement, going back to that, is to take that virtual headset off and let people know by their very nature they're enlightened. There is a bandwidth of energy frequency that they have to attain. Now, not everyone will walk around enlightened, but they have the capacity. So, you know, there's many ways to look at this: enlightenment, letting light in. But for me, it's the ultimate surrender to something greater than you, and an acceptance of the unknown, and going forth and trusting, like a warrior, trusting no matter what happens, God is in your heart. And you disassemble the ego, because my identity is temporal. I came from my mother's womb and I'm going to dust. That's a fact. So I'm not real. So as soon as you can disassociate from the label of your name, from your attachments, from everything you think you are, all that's left is I am. You're just nothing but emptiness and stillness. But it's orchestrated intelligence, intangible orchestrated intelligence, which permeates you. So you're coming from God's wisdom in the heart, opposed to your limited ego conception of, I want this, I want that, what about me, what about this? So it's a reframing where you go, oh, I'm nothing. But in the nothingness is the capacity for everything. I look at it like you've got a garden, it's full of weeds. You pull everything out and you go, oh, the garden's empty. But in that emptiness is the capacity for everything. Because you can plant a rose now where the weed was. So you plant new behaviors, new surrenders. You plant a new garden, which is a garden of love, joy, inspiration, creativity, healing, compassion, and this resurrects you into that. And then your purpose is to serve another with this. So you'll serve each person through your love, and that person, like the disciples, they get some enlightenment and love, and they pass it on, and the resurrection takes place individually but also globally, because it is a thought wave, a universe. The new actions, new thought patterns, new behaviors will indeed create a paradigm shift where we will have heaven on earth opposed to hell on earth.
It's rewiring your brain to think completely differently, which is part of the big struggle. But it's so important, and it's just a really great message that you're sharing. So this is awesome, Glenn. And I wanted to ask you too, we've talked about veganism and everything and how that plays a part into enlightenment and, the whole like being tested and creating a peace and that new enlightenment in your life. So tell us a little bit about your views on veganism.
I'll be glad to. First of all, I was a meat eater in Scotland. That's or fish and chips, pork, bridies, steak and kidney pies. I was just a regular guy eating meat because I didn't know this stuff. So it's not easy to become a vegan. I know it myself. I struggled with it. I went from meat to fish to being a vegetarian, and then meeting a guy called Charles in the Loving Hut in Claremont. It's a vegan restaurant. And I went in there and I spoke to him about my death experience. And this guy, he meditates 8 hours a day. He's like, really, really deep into it. And he had been to see Master Ching Hai. So I was in the restaurant having a vegan meal. First of all, I was like, oh, I'm still hungry. So I was having that vegan meal, and then I noticed Master Ching Hai in the wall. I said, who's that? That lady's radiant with love. And he goes, oh, that's our master. And she does initiations over in Taiwan. I said, really? I said, tell me more about that. So I told him. And he said, one of the precepts is you got to be a vegan. And I said, uh-oh. And he says, yeah, that's it. I says, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, hair products, food, makeup, whatever. When you're on the set with acting, you have to say, give me some vegan stuff, that type of thing. So I said, okay, because it sounded right. Again, that's the knowingness superseding the sensing. It maybe sound like a sacrifice, but it sounded right. And that's where you need the courage of a warrior to do these things. So I did it. It took a while, but I'm going to explain the dynamics of why it has to be done. It's many reasons. Dalai Lama will say, oh, it's a sentinel being, don't be killing it, which is true. But he, as a master, he knows the real reasons, but I'm sure he doesn't want to go into it. There's a lot of advocacy by the meat industry, the farmers to sell dairy and meat. So it's $1 billion corporation. And of course, we know money really controls a lot of what we eat and what we see here. And that's part of the axis of evil, actually, the special interest groups advocating for these type of things. So what really happens here is, picture this, a cow's going to the slaughter, boom, I don't know how to do it over here, but in Scotland, hit him over the head with a hammer. And so that animal's got sensitivity, so it knows it's going to be killed. So if you know you're going to be killed, you're going to fear modality, flight or fight, sweating, chemicals. So the first thing that happens is there's a signal sent from the nervous system, from the brain of fear, which putrefies the meat. So number one, you're eating you can have all the sauce and anything you want on it, but you're eating putrefied meat, an animal that's been murdered. Secondly, you inherit the murder of the animal. So your karma goes down. But here's the most important thing. The universe is structured on a bandwidth of energy. It's like ice, water, and steam. It's the same chemical formula, but there's a step-up vibration. Ice is H2O. You add some energy. What is it? It's water. Add energy to water. What is it? It's steam, but it's still considered H2O. It's just a different alchemy. Like lead to gold, ego to soul. The universe is a vibration of sound and a myriad of conceptions. That's what it is. So the animal is indeed a conception. And on this third dimension, we have hierarchies. We have the mineral kingdom, beget by the vegetable kingdom, beget by the animal kingdom, beget by the human kingdom, beget by the spiritual kingdom. These are the hierarchies of God's thinking and vibrational realities. So you need to get out of the human kingdom to go spiritual beings, so you need higher frequency. So if you're eating an animal, it's like you're on this level and you're dropping down here, because the universe evolves constantly. It never stays still. So you're either moving towards your destiny or moving away. You're either moving toward life or death. It's a constant interplay of opposites. The universe is marching on. You're either on the train or you're not. It's moving. So they've shown this, that it can be proven about the different states, nuclear physicists and all that stuff. So an animal is at a bandwidth. An animal can evolve into a human because it's a soul. I'm sure you've seen dogs or cats. You go, wow, they're here to help me. They're like a human. And it's possible because masters say, okay, I'm going to serve. I'll come down with one leg and I'll initiate compassion, or I'll be an animal to show compassion for animals. So there's so much stuff that we're unaware of. But the basics is this: that animals, you're serving a steak here. So first of all, it's putrefied, and you're attached to the murder of that because you're eating a carcass of something that was murdered. You're now linked to that because the universe, everything is connected. But your goal, if it's to be spiritually enlightened and transcend and get out of this third dimension and not be trapped in a continuous cycle of birth and rebirth and never get out, you won't eat meat because you're going to de-evolve to the bandwidth of the animal kingdom. So humans can go up and down, animals can go up and down. That's why we have a variety. We have rocks, we have trees. That's why there is this, because it's the one substance in a myriad of different conceptions. So by eating meat, you're de-evolving and making yourself sick. That's why I'm a vegan.
Really good explanation to how, going into it, because I think a lot of times people do it for different reasons and everything, but I think that's a really good way to dumb it down for this, and help us to understand, why it's so important to, do veganism and to stay healthy along with the other things that come along with it. So thank you for sharing that, Glenn. I really appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and roll into your tested movie. I know you talked about this, prior and everything, and this is what is kind of the ultimate push. You have created this film that is going to be coming out, and we're going to show a little piece of it here soon, that just shares this message that Glenn is working on really hard getting out to everybody so that they can, experience the love and peace of after being tested, and have that success. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up the film here. And then, Glenn, you're going to tell us about this, and the behind the scenes and your reason for starting Tested. So here we go.
We're all here by divine appointment. Is there an answer? Oh, yes, there is an answer. And that answer is Jesus Christ. The book of Revelations tells us the end is near, and you have a choice to make. Eternity's a long, long time. You can choose light, or you can choose darkness. The choice is yours. As Jesus said, I am the truth. And the devil will tell you what you see is real and what you hear is real. But that is an illusion. That's the truth. We are all one. Christ said it. I am. You are. We are all one because Jesus Christ said it. I am the light. I am the way. And I am the truth.
So I want to see the rest of the movie so bad. It's just such a like inspiring, like jaw-dropping piece. And Glenn, share with us your message with the Tested movie because it's absolutely amazing, and I'd love for people to learn about this.
Well, the tested message is simply this: to know you're being tested, which is a self-awareness. Knowing is to know you can be free. So your knowing is supersedes your sensing. So it's a two-part thing. It's to know the God's within you, and to know you have a choice, that the system is raped from you through financial, religious, government, wars, drugs, special interest groups, whatever you call it, that's taken away. So the purpose of testing is to say, wait a minute here, you didn't sign up for this. Your birthright has been taken away from you. One of the things the minister says, he says, when you're born, you don't get a birth certificate, you get a slave certificate. And these little pearls of wisdom will wake you up, because it's been proven. Einstein even said it: when your mind's been stretched to a certain level, it can't go back. So if you know you're made of love, if you know we're all connected, why would you want to hurt someone? Because you're just hurting you. Why would you want to de-evolve when you can evolve? So by getting this understanding to the masses, that will create the paradigm shift. I carefully engineered the movie with each archetype. I studied the Enneagram personality types. These are from India. There's certain personalities. I'll give you a couple. Ronald Reagan was a 9. There's 9 of them. Mother Teresa was a 2. Each of these personality types has their own being, but also a heart space and a stress base. Now, the number 2 is a natural giver. But the stress base is an 8, which takes her to Hitler. The natural creative space for a 2 is 4. So once you know how human beings work through stress, through love, and through their innate beingness, I could put in time and space archetypes to represent most of humanity. So no matter how you see things or hear things or your spiritual evolution, you should get a cathartic hit from this movie. It's a roller coaster of an adventure, but basically putting you in the alpha or theta states of consciousness, you will inherit the wisdom behind everything. So the Tested movement and movie is just really the beginning of this whole thing. I have a music division in process, a merchandising division. We're setting up a global podcast division. It's like a name branding, like Apple, if you will, except it's going to cross over all boundaries with gender. It'll be a rainbow coalition of people, and the foundation will be love and sharing and peace in all languages. So it's an ambitious project, but that's what's needed right now, because people have to look and see where the planet is heading. I don't know where you are, but every time I drive by here in Los Angeles, there's homeless everywhere, and there's a new drug coming out, and there's a friend getting sick, and there's a 4th degree of the pandemic, there's this, that. What is that? If we're supposed to be divine beings living in heaven, why is only 1% doing that? So these are the things you've got to look at, and that's tested, examines this under a microscope. The enlightened minister wants a unification summit. I'm sure the Christian will go, Glenn's wrong. Buddhist will say Glenn's wrong. But the truth is, God's in both of them. So am I wrong? Or are they holding on to a concept of their beliefs that is attached to their ego? So these are the eye-opening questions which will be provoked. I have to provoke you, because if you're in a state of homeostasis, you're frozen, and you're just going through your life like the living dead, driving the same way, wearing the same clothes, watching the same TV show, you're actually dead. The brain is plastic, it's neuroplasticity, and it's meant to evolve cosmically to be one with God's mind. It's not meant to stagnate. So the Tested movie and movement is specifically for that purpose, with all profits, my personal profits, going to the homeless. And I've created an architectural design for the Ratcliffe Foundation, which will be the assemblage of 3-story buildings in every city. The first one will take people off the streets, second I'll clean them up, third I'll integrate them into the workforce, give them back their dignity, give them back their life. So the Tested movie is the resurrection of one man on time and space, but hopefully the resurrection on the planet in the incoming Aquarian age, where love supersedes hate and right conquers might.
I love that, because we really need more of love conquering the darkness, and getting that out there to the world is huge. And you've done so much work on this, Glenn. You've been in multiple different articles and have reached out to so many different people because you're really passionate about this, and that's what's just so amazing, because you have such great backgrounds to go into this and say, hey, I've been here, I've experienced the lowest of the low possible, and I want to share how I've come about with peace and being able to share, a happy smile throughout the day with somebody else, and you're a very positive person. So I think that's just absolutely amazing that this is a passion for you. So, what is your desire, for other people who want to help you out with this movement? How can people help you out?
Well, the desire really is for people to take some time and really look at their own life, look at your own and ask the honest questions, because everything in your reality up to now is something you've created. So you need to say, am I eating meat? Am I paranoid? Is my money in the bank? Am I going to the church for limited spiritual sustenance? What am I doing? You need to, in order to make a new you, you've got to know who the old you is. If you don't know who the old you is, how can you resurrect into a new you? So the purpose of this is, I would say, for people who are listening, to share this message, pass it along. The test, you've been tested. It's not, you can get out of the trap, trust me. And if you want to get yourself involved more, feel free to look at the testedthemovement.com, testedthemovie.com. This is the only movie that's got a world peace movement behind it in history. So they work in conjunction with all profits, going to help people. So there is no higher calling than to serve another. I mean, I am proud to say when I pass, I can bump my little grandchild on my knee and say, hey, I tried the best I could to make the world a little better. Whether I succeed or not, I don't know, I'll give it. But I tried. I laid my heart down and my soul and said, okay, I'm going to stand up for truth and share what I know before I go. That simple. And I think all of us need to do that, because life is a gift. You can walk outside, hear the birds chirp, have a cup of tea, sit under the stars. You must be grateful and have gratitude for the simplest things. Fill yourself up with the spiritual bank. There's 2 banks. There's, I better put some cash in this bank. They're charging me $12 a month to steal my money and give it to special interest groups. They're putting poison in the food, but hey, I'll just do it anyway. Now you need to wake up, stop, wake up, and change thoughts, actions, behavior, and synchronize with love, synchronize with giving, synchronize with surrender and gratitude. We have a donation where we can accept donations, tax deductible donations for friends and family for the movie. So yeah, it's a good calling, it's a good project, and my personal email is glenn.ratcliffe@icloud.com. Feel free at any time to text or email Ashley or me questions, and I'll be more than happy to work with you or answer the questions to the best of my ability. So please look inward, know that you're special. That's what the tested is. Whether you come on board or not, know that you've been tested. know you're in a trap, and know you can get out of the trap through new behaviors, new actions, and new thoughts.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And definitely, guys, help out with as much as you can, whether it's sharing the movement or checking out the Tested movie, and getting in contact with us if you have any questions or you want to see something, that a future episode of something that we've talked about a little bit more in depth, reach out to Glenn or myself, and we will make that happen for you. I definitely want to make sure that you understand this, because this is such a huge opportunity to help bring love and peace to the world. And it is not going to be easy, but Glenn's working so hard, and it's possible. And so many people just need that love and that encouragement in life. And it's definitely needed in this day and age, especially. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here pretty quickly, but last couple of things we're going to ask you is, Glenn, you have been awarded a lot of nominations and, things across the world. What would you like to share with us about that in your career?
Well, it's not really so much about that. It's the synchronization of an intention to make the world better. Really, everything that happens to you, from my point of view, is a stepping stone towards heaven and sharing. So no matter who you are, wash the car the best you can, wash the dishes, love your mate. You're all successes in whatever you do. The failures when you don't try, when the system is beating you down so much, you go, oh, I'm just going through life. No, no, no. You're an award-winning human being by the very fact you're here. You're here, so you have the gift of life. So know that you, every minute, be the best you, the best version of you. It doesn't matter if you're buying the groceries and you're impatient in a line, be patient. Love the person next to you. Reset. These are the awards that are precious, because everyone, there should be no class system. I'm better than you, you're better than me. That's the ego choosing limitation and judgment. And when you're judged and judging people, you will be judged, because it's a mirror image, and you get caught in that loop where you can't get out of it. So you're all award-winning people. Just know that. Just take the stop and realize that every moment is precious, and every moment gives you an opportunity to be closer to God through giving love. That's an award.
And I also, that is a huge opportunity, that you're so humble, and it goes even farther, with everything that you have done in your life. You've gotten to, be with some of the best, and you are a super fantastic human being, and, so free, so talented. It's just absolutely amazing, but you're focusing your efforts into helping others, to live their best life. And that's just a huge message, everybody. So, thank you so much for sharing all this with us, Glenn. And we want to leave you all with a, little glimpse of hope as the end of the Shaking Cup. We're going to go ahead and play that. And I actually just popped it up accidentally here, so you got a little sneak peek of that. But Glenn, we're going to go ahead and play the very end of this, and then we can talk about it a little bit, and then we'll be done for the day. And thank you again for your time. Appreciate that.
Get up.
brings back memories. I think I've lost the sound. I can't hear you.
Oh, yeah, I've been
Sound?
talking all to myself over here.
Oh,
I'll fix that. But that was just amazing. What a huge demonstration of emotion where he wasn't able to sing before in the beginning, and now he was, and it just goes back
well, you
to
lost it. It
yeah,
was. We can all sing in the beginning, but the system takes it out of us. That's the
yeah,
symbolism. Yeah.
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 It's just such a
So,
huge push, like to go from that absolute suffering to the joy, and that's what you're all about, Glenn. And I just love that. I'm so thankful that that's what you're doing and that's what you're pushing, and just a huge emotion. So I appreciate that. And is there anything that you'd love to share about, that final bit and, before we head out for the day?
yeah, I think that's the warrior's journey. And we're all warriors. We come in with everything, we lose our way, and we spend the rest of our life resurrection into divinity. That's the journey. But because of fear, the system, the journey gets stopped and you get stuck. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a fly they put in a jar, it could jump 18 inches. They put a lid, the jar was 12 inches. They put a lid on it. And then for 30 days, it tried to jump. It could only, then they took the lid off and it could still only jump the 12 feet because of the system had pushed it down. And that's what's going on. And this is symbolic in many ways. Even though he's homeless, he trusts he's going to sing in the street. That's how much passion he has. And this is a man who used to sing at Carnegie Hall, but he has to humble himself to allow the resurrection to take place. So the humbling is that little girl is the virgin birth, has to enter the kingdom of heaven, be a little child. So she's there and he's disconnected from his voice of God, which is his truth. So he takes that courage and sings with full conviction of joy that he's been resurrected. In other words, it's like the virgin birth for this man. And then you see the little girl just there. She's always in my heart, the innocence. He just goes, okay, he's restored. And the symbol in time and space is we all need to be restored. We all need to do soul retrieval. We all need to investigate where we lost connection with God. And that's what this movie's about. He's in the barren wasteland just with his little piano, which might be your meditation, might be your silent whisperings to please help me. But unless he took those steps, that's why I wanted it slowed down, because these are the stepping stones to the kingdom of heaven. And when you're up there, you're shaking because you're fearful, because you're going to die. It's like your ego in front of the firing squad. It's the last cigarette, You're going to say, okay, I'm choosing the light. My ego's gone. And if I have to fight the battles of Satan and the evil, I will do it. And as he's stepping up there, that's his resurrection. Then it's not finished yet. He has to express with an open heart his love and what he stands for. And then a little girl smiles, boom, she knows he's resurrected. And the moral of that story is that's everyone's journey. Look into your heart and see where you lost it, but have the courage to go inward. Blame no one, look at yourself, and take the steps towards expressing your love. It's no good having it all condensed. You might know all this stuff, go, yeah, I know this, and when you're sitting there, watching a rerun of a TV show. That's not your purpose. You know, you have to have the generosity of spirit. Whatever you've learned, give it to someone, right? Give, and share and share and share. And that's the alchemic process that spiritually heightens your vibration to transcend the third dimension and go on to the heavenly realms in your next life.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Glenn, thank you so much. Just a huge blessing to have you. And I know we'll hear from, we'll continue to talk with you on about, new things that you like to share. So I'm just really excited about this opportunity, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And we will see you back here next time on the Raw and Tested show. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. God bless.